That video played weird on my thing, but that's all right. How's everybody doing tonight? My God. Look at these people that I'm here with tonight.
I wasn't ready, Mike. Sorry.
No, that's okay. Adam was not expecting this. That's okay. Something big must have happened in the world of professional wrestling tonight to bring all of these people together into one video podcast. Oh, wait, I know exactly what it was. Vince McMahon has retired from World Wrestling Entertainment, the company he helped found. Oh my God, today has been a big day in the world of professional wrestling. Probably the biggest. I don't think it's a long shot to say this is probably the biggest news since Vince bought WCW, perhaps, because this is pretty earth shattering. I am here with my wonderful wife, Victoria.
Hi, everyone.
You can tell she's got a little bit of a stuffy nose there. I am here with Roy Nemmer, who recapped Friday Night SmackDown tonight.
Hello.
Roy, can you see us over there? Are you all right?
We're good. I can see you guys.
All right. You want to turn on that light?
Where is this? Hold on.
Here, turn on the light, please. Just show everybody.
There you go.
Yeah.
It's working.
That looks cool. I like it.
It's a work in progress.
So,
I like it, Roy.
Thank you, Victoria.
And Daniel Schell, aptly named him the Godfather of Wrestleview.
Agreed.
The Godfather. I don't know about that one.
I like that. I'll take that all day
I
long.
do like it, but I don't know.
I don't
about
see
that.
any O's.
Yeah.
Oh
Cheers,
my God.
everybody. Friday night.
Cheers.
Friday.
Yeah, I busted out some whiskey, and I'm ready to not talk about a show that I didn't watch a single second of. Well, I watched the first 2 minutes. I watched Stephanie go, "Let's all give it up for my dad, who might have possibly done something with a woman behind the scenes that we're not going to address live on television." And so, yeah, it was good. It was a good night.
Okay, so let's just start off with how this got announced today. At around 4:08 p.m., a tweet and a press release was sent out. One from Vince McMahon, one from WWE. Vince tweeted out on his Twitter, "At 77, time for me to retire. Thank you, WWE Universe. Then, now, forever together." It's like so annoying that he keeps like bringing in that damn tagline too. I don't know why. It just really irks me. And the press release followed up at 4:08. Oh, did I not send that? I sent this to where? I'll send it again. Ooh, damn it.
You panicking, Mike?
We got one more person coming in
Okay.
that we're waiting on here. And the press release states a little more in depth of a statement from Vince McMahon thanking his family, everybody past and present that ever worked for WWE, the superstars. He wants to thank the fans for bringing us into your homes every week. I love it. I'm so happy. The global audience can take comfort in knowing WWE will continue to entertain you with the same fervor, dedication, and passion as always. I am extremely confident in the continued success of WWE, and I leave our company in the capable hands of an extraordinary group of superstars, employees, and executives, in particular both chairwoman and co-CEO Stephanie McMahon and co-CEO Nick Khan. As the majority shareholder, I will continue to support WWE in any way I can. My personal thanks to our community, business partners, shareholders, and board of directors for their guidance and support through the years, then, now, forever together. Ugh. Not a lot to unpack here. Number one, probably the best news of all time. Vince is finally off of creative.
I wish it didn't happen like this.
Well, yes, I wish that there didn't have to be hush money things that came. Well, I mean, the only way that it was going to ever change was he dies. So, I mean,
that's what everyone has always said, that he's not going to. He will never retire. The only way he retires is if he dies. So that's why this has been surprising. I mean, I hate to even use the word surprising, because Dave Stevens was texting me tonight, and he's like, "I can't believe Vince did this." And I was like, "Do you not read the news, Dave?" He's like, "Well, I know." I'm like, there was clearly something, and I know what Dave was trying to say. He was trying to say, like, I can't believe he actually decided to really retire. But it's very, very clear that, there was some investigation going on. They found out some more information. There was a board. I don't think a lot of people really understand what it means to be a publicly traded company. Like, I know they know that about WWE, but they don't listen to like the investor calls and the questions that the shareholders always ask. Like Vince has to sit there and listen to some really aggressively dumb questions from shareholders like 4 times a year. And you can just hear it in his voice. He gets really annoyed, but I'm sure they found some information. I'm sure some more stuff was about to possibly hit. And he's out.
Actually, so further details have emerged from regarding the retirement, and it says that the decision for the retirement was finalized about 10 days ago, which that 10 days ago, that would put it shortly after it was revealed that he paid $8 million to a former WWE superstar to cover up a sexual relationship, and also involved in this cover up. This person came to them in 2018. They were fired in 2005. He had, I guess because they didn't want to continue the relationship, demoted the woman and taken her off of television. So that did not get a lot of airplay because it was the second story.
Yeah.
And it came out on a Friday. And, it's the summer and everybody, it's like during 4th of July week. People aren't paying attention on a Friday. But that to me was probably the biggest bombshell. I just could not imagine him surviving just that one. And if there's more like that, which there probably are.
There definitely is.
Yeah.
I think so.
That's devastating. That would be disqualifying to me.
That's a fair question the board could have asked of. Publicly, they would not disclose who that person is. But if you're on the board, you could come to the table and say, I want to know who this is. I want all the details. I'm sure that happened. Because they did say invest. I don't know how deep the investigation went. But you could kind of. So today was weird in that they announced Triple H was retaking the position of, is it EVP of Talent Relations or VP? Or okay.
EVP.
And that used to be James Laurinaitis' position. And then it went to Bruce Pritchard, and now back to Triple H.
Right.
And Stephanie's was already kind of announced a few weeks ago when the initial story came out. But I didn't see, unless it escaped me the first time, I didn't see Nick Khan's name associated as a co-CEO until today in the press release. Like that was not...
Right. He's been serving as the president of WWE. Once they issued that press release, he has now bumped himself up. And he's only been around for about a year to co-CEO, which I know there's a lot of conspiracy theories out there about Nick Khan. A lot of questions were raised about how the Wall Street Journal even knew about the investigation and, how all these details kept leaking. And then you have this guy who's aggressive, very, very aggressive and moving up the ladder of WWE. You start asking questions. Was it Nick Khan? Because you have to remember also, Stephanie stepped down from her position in May, and on her way out, the WWE executives, including Nick Khan, were privately leaking out, she had to go. She dropped the ball. She was no good. She's overblown in her business credentials, and we should be doing so much more than what she was doing. And now all of a sudden, she's back as the chairwoman or interim chairwoman. This I don't know. There seems like there's a lot of. He seems like the kind of guy that might leak something. I don't know. I'm just saying. I just want to throw that out there.
Allegedly, yeah.
Allegedly, yes. That is all rumored innuendo. Yeah. Innuendo, right?
There's a lot of signs that point that it's probably Khan that.
Can I ask a question? How did he become the boogeyman in the last 2 years?
Because he was the one. I guess all the released WWE superstars started saying that, it was him that came in, started tightening up the books. I mean, yes, they actually had a way too bloated of a roster. Like, they did. Way too bloated.
Doesn't that seem... I'm going to play devil's advocate. And I'm
absolutely.
By no means am I trying to stick up for an individual I've never spoken to, but the internet's very weird. And I think they have to have a boogeyman. And now that Vince is gone, Nick Khan is the boogeyman, and I've noticed that. I would see stuff hit my timeline where he's being referred to as the evil, and maybe it's true, but he doesn't have enough background in this industry to really truly be able to pull this off. I don't know. I think people are giving him way too much credit and thinking that this is playing out, but he was put in a position to make hard decisions. Like, I hate to break it to you if you don't work in a corporation, and I've gone out of my way to make sure I'm no longer in that environment anymore because it's really gross, but that's kind of how it works. And especially people in Vince's position and Stephanie's position, they're looking for people to do the things they don't want to do anymore. And it's really easy to point a finger, because that's kind of what I'm seeing with Nick Khan is like, Cody Rhodes was talking pretty in depth about working, or at least speaking with him when he re-signed. And he was like, it was new to me to talk to this guy, but he didn't seem to. I mean, maybe later on, if he leaves again, he'll reveal some stuff. But I'm absolutely fascinated how Nick Khan has become the evil boogeyman in the last few years. All of a sudden, it's really weird.
Well, I think like part of it is that Vince has shown some I mean, like he's like a Joe Biden, I guess you could say, like some kind of like decrease in faculties as he's gotten older. And this guy Nick Khan comes in from out of nowhere, like you said, like he's just
but he's known the McMahons though for well over 15 years though, so it's not like he was just like. I mean,
no, but
the positions, it's a very high position. I agree.
He came in from relative nothing pertaining really to like anything like this, and has moved up extraordinarily quickly. They see people pushed out, and a couple people that were pushed out, have said, he's restructuring everything. They pushed Triple H out of his position from NXT, and when he had the health scare, then they used that to completely push him out. They got Stephanie out in May, but then these allegations came out, and then she got called off the bench essentially to come in and save them.
Yeah. And
part of the question is like, is she there just to be Vince's puppet? We'll have to talk about all this stuff. But before we do that, we also have one more person. If they could just back away from their cameras a tiny bit here. There we go. Jerome Weiland is here as well to talk the Vince stuff with us as well.
Hi. Yes.
Hello, Jerome.
Hello, everybody.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Sorry I'm a bit late. I was taking care of some other stuff.
That's all right. So let's get into this. This is let's just break it down. Victoria, as our resident female here, we're going to use that to have you give your thoughts on this entire thing with Vince and what you think of it. Because we've been trying to get talk about all this stuff, and we keep missing it.
I'm still not feeling well, everybody, so bear with me. But yeah, I've been actually it's actually been a struggle for me not to talk about this. There's every Monday I'm like, oh, gosh, I want to talk about this. I want to talk about this, and then any other day in the week I'm like, oh, I want to talk, and I haven't been able to. But I'm really glad that I'm well enough, at least at this point, to be able to speak on this, because since the beginning of when the allegations came out, and I did say this on the one podcast that we did in the past month, it really, really bothered me and really, really aggravated me and just made me so angry on how they were taunting it in our faces. Vince is still coming out. Vince is still heavily involved. And there was just this attitude of like, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going to be doing anything. Nothing's going to happen. It was this untouchable feeling. And this whole thing, like, I'm going to make this go away. And listen, I'm the first person to say, like, our society has a really big problem with guilty until proven innocent. We don't give people the benefit of the doubt. We don't let the justice system do what it needs to do for the most part, where, people, we can't just take every allegation and just say, oh yeah, well, that's the truth. No, you have to look at both sides. You really have to investigate, and you have to see what's going on. But these, to me, are not just allegations. This has been ongoing. This has been essentially confirmed to some capacity, where money was brought out, money was brought into this. These women, this has been going on for a long time. And that man of this power and this stature, like, of course people are going to hush about it. And of course people are they want to make it go away. So, and also, if truly, in my opinion, if you really are like innocent, right? Why are you throwing out all this money to keep people quiet? And I'm just happy at this point that whether he's in, and we'll talk about this more in a bit too, whether Stephanie is going to be his puppet, and will Vince really be out of creative control on certain things, and maybe not, because he's not in the company anymore, but his daughter's still in charge. So he could still very much has connections in the company and could still put his way into a lot of stuff. He just doesn't have that title.
Well,
But-
yes. Also, let's not forget also that he said, I'm still the majority shareholder, and the
Right.
majority shareholder still does hold
a
bit
lot of
power.
stake. Yeah, exactly. But I am happy though that he's not going to be on TV, that they're not going to be doing this whole teasing rant and taunting of like, I'm untouchable. That really, really just upset me, because and honestly, and I may get a lot of hate for this, shame on the people who have been like, oh, but you know what, Vince, like, whatever. You have to separate that. This I'm sorry. Hello, people, it's not real. Okay? This is scripted stuff, predetermined things. Vince McMahon, who he is in character, you can't take away just because the character that he did and the things that he did for this company. If you're a bad person and you did bad things and you did all of this stuff, you should not be allowed to be part of the company. And just because you do every little thing of creative and whatever doesn't make you a good person. Doesn't negate anything that you did. So shame on those individuals who were like, thank you, Vince. And for Stephanie for like, and listen, it's her father. I get it. She's going to defend her dad. But shame on you. And for those fans, and for the fans for the past month who have been like supporting this. Because this is not it's not a typical situation of just like, oh, there's these allegations. There's a lot of truth behind this and a lot of investigating that's already been taking place that we know about. And more is going to unfold as this goes on. This isn't the end right here with his retirement.
Well, that was the interesting thing. The Wall Street Journal did say that it had even more that they were working on, that they had found out, and they were working on disclosing. And I think they think that by getting out in front of this and just getting Vince out of there, that will kind of probably deaden that. But still, to me, the biggest bombshell was the WWE at the time, WWE Diva in 2005. That, I mean, you have to look at the power dynamics here. Like that's always what it comes down to in these cases, right? Where it's like, the CEO with the worker, especially this one's an independent contractor. They're not even an employee, right? And the power dynamic. I control your entire career.
Yeah.
It's not just a sexual relationship anymore. There is a power imbalance there where, if Vince is coming on to you, like, at the time he was 60 years old or so, and which is creepy enough as it is, a 6-year-old guy coming at you, like, huffing and puffing, like, and you're like, well, what do I do? And then eventually when you want to kill off this relationship, you're like, I can't do this anymore. And he says, fine, your job's at stake. I will take you off of television. That's coercion. That is the definition of sexual misconduct and probably borderline assault. And I think what happened with this investigation was they started off by looking at this paralegal that they had hired in the company. She started off at $100,000. She started having a relationship with Vince. Vince wanted to up her salary to $300,000 and then realized that would be too much of a red flag, so they raised it to $200,000. That's using company money now to reward somebody for touching your pee-pee.
She knew how to get ahead in the company. That's all.
She did, but
she did, and then Vince passed her down to John Laurinaitis, that's how he got dragged into this and wound up getting kicked out. So the investigation was really initially to see if he used company money for any, in this NDA to pay her the $3 million, which I do believe he paid his own money. But when you're upping salary for sleeping with the boss, that's misconduct. That's disqualifying right there.
Did you happen to see, like, this is for anybody on the panel, what Chris Jericho initially said about that allegation?
Yeah.
And
yeah, right.
He said this before the other story came out, but he was kind of saying like, so what? Like he cheated on his wife. So what?
Not
A lot of people
illegal.
cheat on their wife, and then the person that was interviewing him wasn't super familiar with the story. So again, this came out like, I want to say a week or so before that other story broke about the other. So had that other story been out, I don't know if he would have taken that same stance. But it is interesting, kind of like what Victoria was saying, where you're seeing different reactions of people that worked very closely with Vince that are giving like sentimental messages. Like, Gerald Briscoe had this like really heelish promo on Twitter tonight where he's like, I retweeted it and it was hilarious. And then he had to quickly apologize. He was kind of basically going after people. And then he's like, but the allegations are legitimate and I feel bad for anybody. But like, I saw like Kevin Nash kind of going like, kind of treating it more of like if Vince had passed away versus, he's still here. And I think people are kind of muddying the waters a little bit. And Stephanie, it's kind of like, what do you think she's going to say about it? It's kind of like the Trump family. Like they're not going to publicly, railroad their dad, even if, he did some really bad stuff. And, Stephanie's probably not going to do that either. And I doubt Triple H would do that. But it is kind of concerning that when you do see, because this is a new this culture, while not completely new, it's now really ramping up more than it even did a couple years ago. And people are starting to really get exposed. And while we are seeing a lot of progress with that, you're going to also see people kind of fight that and go, I don't know if I like this. And I don't know if I like the fact that Vince got ousted from this company because of this. And then you're going to have very legitimate allegations come out, like the stuff that Mike was just talking about. I didn't even know about some of that stuff. So that's very concerning. And that's the other problem, is that there's mixed emotions on my end of like, growing up with Vince as a kid in the 80s and then seeing him transition into big evil Vince McMahon in the Attitude Era. And then even as recently as WrestleMania this last year, that was the first time I'd tuned into a Mania in many years. And I was super entertained by all the stuff Vince was doing. And now, it's kind of hard for me to sit here and want to like roll through the Rolodex of Vince memories when the reason he's retiring because of this. I mean, that there's no way around it.
Can I just add to that for just a minute? And I'm sorry to interrupt anybody because I know I had time to speak on this, but I think the difference between us as fans and the majority of people, even like who listen to our show and are part of Wrestleview and everything, and there's a majority of people who are genuinely angry and genuinely upset by this. And I think it's okay to mourn Vince McMahon as the character, because like you said, Adam, all of us grew up with him from the 80s and everything else, like from what we think we know. But we can still separate the fact that us, not a lot of other people, again, those people cheering tonight, that what he did was wrong. And that's where the disconnect is. It's like, you can still mourn his character and you can still mourn the things that he did for the company and be upset that, now a lot of things has changed and a lot of what you knew and a lot of what has happened over the years. But we could still recognize the fact, though, that this was serious and he needed to be let go.
Yeah, I've noticed that there is like a big disconnect with people just thinking that, like anybody, like they think that the character they see on television is that person. It's like these are the same people that probably like you found out that the Iron Sheik and Hacksaw Jim Duggan got pulled over together. Oh, but I thought they were feuding. It's not real, okay? Like, like a lot of these people are thinking like, oh, Vince, he tagged team, he wrestled God, like this guy is untouchable. Like he'll book himself out of it. It's going to be a swerve. I saw a swerve in a lot of the comments today.
It reminds me of the Benoit reaction, and even it's still going on today, where people were like, fuck, like, can we not look at Benoit's wrestling career? But it's really hard to separate it. And now I'm not saying Benoit murdering his family is on the same playing field as Vince doing some really fucked up shit backstage, but it's even the Jimmy Snuka thing. Like, for a long time, Jimmy Snuka was well revered, and then all of a sudden we had to go, but he might have murdered somebody, and now Vince is now going to be in this special category.
Yes.
I loved his character, and that's what's And that's kind of why that's why I'm drinking, because it's weird.
and that's the thing. You know, we're going to have a reckoning in the months, you know, in the months and the years to come as to the legacy of Vince McMahon. His what he did for wrestling is, you know, undeniable, but that will never be the full story there. You know, this will always be this asterisk. Now, I want to get a reaction from Roy. I know you're gearing up for something, Victoria, but I just want to get a reaction.
Oh no, of course. Go ahead, Roy.
Reaction from Jerome. Your thoughts on this news?
It's obviously fucked up. You got to be able to differentiate between the character and the person, right? The character itself, probably one of the best ever in the business, but the person, Vince as a person, I'm sure he's done some nice stuff throughout his life, but that's pretty fucked up what he did. As for the news that broke today, I mean, that was surprising. That kind of came out of left field, so to speak, came out of nowhere. I don't think many people were expecting it, at least not this soon, and not something like this. You guys mentioned it earlier. Everyone kind of said, well, the day Vince leaves is the day he's 6 feet under, right? That's it. And I know, you know, Adam and I were kind of talking about this earlier, a couple of hours ago when it broke. Everyone has skeletons in their closets, and what's fucked up is now, especially these days, everything's coming out. Everything is coming out. And for Vince, it started coming out even 30 years ago with the steroids and the ring boy and the announcer and this and that, or the referee. So it's been building up, and it's just the fact that I think someone leaked it, going back to what you guys spoke about earlier. It's probably Khan. It's going to be massive to see what's going to happen with the company now. People are talking about, oh, this is going to change a lot. Who knows? We don't know. We don't know what's going to change, be it storyline-wise, company-wise. People are already talking about, oh, this person wants to come back to the company, and this person this and this person that. At the end of the day, this is a publicly traded company. It's all about money. It's all about the brand. It's all about the image. And even Vince McMahon proved that even if you're Vince McMahon, you cannot get away with every single thing, not in this day and age. And something like this can ruin your career. It did. Lucky for Vince, he's 77 and not 37. And look, as wrestling fans, are we happy that he's stepping away? I think the majority are. But kind of like what Victoria mentioned earlier, it sucks that it had to be under these kinds of circumstances. Not that he doesn't deserve it, don't get me wrong, but it sucks that he actually did these things, and that's why he has to step aside.
Yeah. You know, I know it's been a long time coming that there has needed to be a change creatively. I mean, you watch like a WrestleMania, like Adam was saying. You know, Adam watches no wrestling now, and you know, if you just watch WrestleMania, you think, man, this is a company that, God, it's so much fun, it's so entertaining. And then you like, you know, if you ever dare to watch the weekly television product, you're like, did the same company really just put out that WrestleMania? It's, you know, you look at the amount of stars they've created. You put out, you look at this, you know, the major storylines that have connected with people. You know, it's really like they're just booking for major shows at this point. You know, I think it's long past due for, you know, some fresh blood in, you know, on that creative. But the creative, Jerome, tonight consisted of Kevin Dunn and Bruce Pritchard, tried and true Vince guys.
Yes.
What do you have you heard anything about the WWE creative so far? What's your thoughts on this whole Vince thing? And what do you think there's going to be any major changes? Because a lot of people are thinking that, oh, no, this is a good thing for WWE. Television's going to get better. Do you think there's going to be any discernible difference between the television product from this past Monday's Raw, the last show that Vince was in charge of, and next Monday's Raw?
No, I don't think so. I think Raw is going to look the same. This whole thing, you know, it came as a surprise today. Obviously, my first thought was Vince is guilty. His attorney probably told him to step down and save face for the company. It's very sad, but Bruce Pritchard and Kevin Dunn as creative going forward, I see that as a disaster. I just don't think they have what it takes. I was joking earlier, I know, with you guys in the chat that, Nick Khan's saying 2 down, 1 down and 2 to go, because I think he wants to be in charge of the company. But with Adam's comment about WrestleMania and finding it entertaining, Money in the Bank for me was like one of the most entertaining pay-per-views that I've seen from WWE in a long time. But getting back to the creative side, I don't think we're going to see any changes right away. I hope it doesn't become a Triple H and Stephanie, McMahon era again on TV. That would just be that would not be good going forward. It just would be a disaster. So we'll just have to see what the future holds. I'm sure that they're going to try to figure out who they're going to put in charge of creative. I don't see it being Pritchard and Dunn in the foreseeable future. Maybe in the interim until they figure things out. I just don't know. I think they're all trying to figure things out at this point and what they're going to do. But I think it'll just be business as usual. And Monday will be the same, I'm sure. We'll see. It'll be interesting to see what happens on Monday. But yeah, I don't know. And I haven't heard anything about, any other news about the creative plans at this point. Who's gonna take over? I'm sure they're working on that stuff. But this is all it's messed up. And I thought Vince was going to be, wheeled out of the company in a casket before leaving the company this way. But it's bad.
I think we all did. Now, Adam, you before turning out of Wrestleview, you did it for 18 years following this whole entire thing. Do you think Vince is really gone?
When you publicly announce that you're still a majority shareholder, I still think there's going to be conversations he's going to have with influencers in that company that would still make you think that he's still going to be somewhat involved. Maybe that won't be so much a day-to-day situation, but if you think of this, as of 2022, he has owned this company for 40 years. So this was his 40th year. And granted, it took a couple years before things really went more mainstream with like WrestleMania 1. But it's Roy made some very valid points that it's not as if the last 40 years nothing happened and then all of a sudden there's a controversy with Vince McMahon. I mean, there was a lot of stuff that went down in the 80s and the 90s. And then I think as wrestling went so super mainstream in the late 90s and early 2000s, a lot of that stuff got brought back up again, especially a lot of the profile stuff. I always think about Vince and Bob Costas like arguing with each other on Real Sports on HBO, and they did a like a 3 DVD set of Vince, like a whole career anthology, and building him up as like this almost like godlike figure in that company. And then I was reading Netflix was just about done with production on their newest documentary about Vince, and they had to go, well, got to toss that one away and put it up on the shelf. But and I was reading too that Undertaker, I haven't watched it yet, but the A&E documentary about the Undertaker, he was also kind of propping Vince up as this like godlike figure. And the thing that's the strange thing about this is that he's been such a huge integral part of so many different talents over the last few decades. I was texting with Hunter Golden and Tom Van Stone today when the story broke. I actually thought it was someone had accidentally hacked Vince's Twitter because it popped up on my feed and I just saw Vince and I go, wait, what? So I go to the Vince McMahon account and I'm like, okay. And then I quickly rush to the WWE website and there's nothing on the WWE website. So I go, and so I'm like, guys, I message Mike and Jerome and I'm like, I think something's happening. And then quickly, right as I was telling Mike, the press release came out and I was like, oh shit, like this is really going down. And I don't know why the shock factor, I was messing with Dave when he texted me that today, but it is kind of weird to think we're in a post. Hunter said this, he goes, we're now in a post Vince world, and he never thought he would be, he would see the day. And a lot of people didn't think they'd see the day. You could see that coming with different talents. Like I remember specifically in a documentary, Steve Austin was talking about, I think it was the WrestleMania 19 documentary. He was talking about how there's going to be a time where I'm just not part of this machine anymore. And
Yes.
the WWE is like a machine, and it's like a car. And once you take that part out, you can take another new part and pop it in. And I remember I was so young. I was like in high school. I had just joined Wrestleview. I remember walking upstairs going like, man, I don't want to watch wrestling. I don't want to watch this company without Stone Cold Steve Austin. And I can't even imagine. And then eventually I got used to it. And I think that's going to happen with Vince. I think eventually people will get used to it. He wasn't, and correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, he would still show up on television from time to time, but he wasn't
It's a rare sighting.
It's a rare sighting. He wasn't the Mr. McMahon character that we got for so many years. So I think they'll be okay. I know from the creative standpoint, there's a lot of hope, and I get it, because I've listened to rants by Roy and Victoria and Mike and Jerome and a lot of people going just like, either shows are really, really entertaining or they're just abysmal. And I know that attracted a lot of people to the AEW camp. And now I'm reading that AEW is starting to struggle creatively right now. And this could be a good opportunity for the WWE, but if the same players are still, especially if Kevin Dunn is still producing the show visually, like when I was watching the opening segment of SmackDown tonight, obviously it was Kevin Dunn. You could just tell. And the I'm going to interrupt and cut my promo, and I'm going to interrupt you and cut my promo. And I saw, Mike, I saw you tweeting about this a few weeks ago about that, like, stock kind of, what person A comes out and then person B interrupts and person C interrupts. And it's just, we've just been watching the same format, and it's a very, very polished format, and it looks really, because I mean that is the one integral difference when I've watched the shows of AEW looks just like chaotic and unorganized at times, and WWE looks really, really polished, but it feels like you're watching a robot just kind of produce a show, and it's not organic, it's not authentic. I would like to think it's going to change if Triple H has the influence that he has, but you would probably think that because this is a publicly traded company, they're going to have to answer to people if they make changes and those changes don't result in success, because things are going well right now. Like the connotation that creative is bad might be actually very true, but the company is still generating revenue and making money for their shareholders. So if you deviate and try to appeal to a fan base that isn't as big as people like to think it is, that may not make the shareholders happy. And that's the one fundamental difference between the WWE and an AEW, is that they're both on national platforms, but one is beholden to a board and the other one is just some rich kid, so it's very, very different worlds.
Right. There's a lot to be, and we've said a lot about, that kind of structure. I can't imagine that there's going to be, like a giant discernible difference. Like, they kind of, there was a rumor floating around last week that they were going to go to TV 14 or whatever it was. Then that's going to change everything. No, like you said, it's like, so it's almost sterile. You can go on, you can buy the WWE video game, and then you can create your own show, and you can do what they're doing on TV on a video game. It's like, okay, time for a backstage segment here, time for this. It's like, it's just very paint by numbers. It hasn't gone through any type of any stylistic change, other than just like changing the stage every now and then. Stylistically, it's the same thing, the same thing with the robotic pretty announcer holding up a microphone asking a really inane open-ended question. One guy comes out, cuts his promo, waits for the other guy to finish trashing him, then he trashes him, and then you got Drew McIntyre swinging swords tonight on SmackDown. It's like, what the hell are we doing here? Stylistically, I don't. Roy.
Yeah, to add to what you said, to add to what Adam said, it's the same stuff constantly, but at the end of the day, like Adam mentioned, it's a publicly traded company. It's all about money, and they showed a pretty interesting graphic. I don't know how many of you caught it tonight in regards to their YouTube views. The WWE's YouTube channel reached over 70 billion.
That's 70 billion.
70 billion. And they said it's more than the UFC, MLB, and
NFL.
FIFA, NFL combined. I
think they're only I think they're the 5th or 6th channel in YouTube history to hit the 70 billion view mark.
It's crazy. So if you're a publicly traded company and you hear that about your company, you're happy about it. You don't care what's going on creative.
Absolutely. And the one thing is, like I think we get hung up a lot on ratings. Like one thing that WWE has been very good at has been staying a little bit ahead of the curve in terms of hopping on board with the latest and greatest technology, including, being one of the first, companies to really branch out and do a streaming platform. They were an early adopter of social media and Twitter. And what was that one, the Periscope or something like that? They tried everything. Some of them worked out really great. Some of them were just, flash and pan things.
Touting.
What was that?
Touting?
Tout.
Yeah. Oh, I remember tout.
The touts. And they also had the WWE app. Oh, and tune into the WWE app, during the commercials to continue watching the show on there. They've done everything that they can. And in fact, they've really changed the way that you consume the product. You don't ever have to watch the show. You can just watch a clip of it, in your feed. And that's where they've been really, really smart about, because if you just watch like clips and it's like a clip of like, just like a big spot happening and you didn't have to watch anything else, like you just think that the company is fine. Everything's going great.
Dude, they're in the. I googled this quick. They're in the top 10 of the most subscribed channels on YouTube. They have almost 90 million subscribers.
Yeah,
that's insane.
Yeah. Right,
that's ridiculous.
Right, but the majority of their money still comes from their television deals. Television deals, with NBC Universal, with Fox, overseas. All these television deals, and they have the Fox and USA networks. If they haven't already started negotiating their next deals, which are coming up pretty soon, and it feels like the other ones just happened, but you have to think like we had a 2-year pandemic in between. That last deal, they're already starting again. Would the Vince thing, because that's their bread and butter. It's no longer live events. It's no longer like how many tickets can we sell, because that's how we got to stay afloat. It's the TV deals, and does the Vince thing impact the advertisers they've courted? Through the years now we have like Progressive sponsors SmackDown, Zales like sponsors a match every now and then. Some other kind of insurance will sponsor this. Some ring jewelry company will sponsor this match. Sonic and KFC and all these big name companies. Snickers. That wouldn't touch WWE with a 10-foot pole 10 to 15 years ago. They have worked diligently cleaning up their product, getting rid of the blading in 2008. We do only scripted promos now, so everything's under our control. Does having, like you have to ask the question, as the more these stories come out, was the reason that their hand was forced, did they go to negotiations with NBC Universal or Fox or some other, third party, maybe Amazon or Netflix or Hulu? Those have been rumored landing areas potentially for WWE, in their next contract. And did they say, it's always been understood what you're getting into bed with when you get in bed with professional wrestling and Vince. But now that it's confirmed, it's no longer just like, a rumor, like this is actually confirmed. We can't get in bed. We cannot do anything with you. In fact, we're going to start pulling things back if you don't handle this. Jerome, what do you think of that?
I agree. I think so. I think that the advertisers were looking at what's going on with Vince McMahon, and I don't think they wanted to be associated with him or the company. And I think they were, telling the WWE that, with these allegations, we want to distance ourselves. And so I think that was one of the factors in this as well. I have to agree with that. Definitely.
In Victoria, Adam, I'm sorry.
I was going to say maybe, because I until they start losing vast amounts of distribution through television in the United States and overseas, and major sponsors drop out, I think it's going to be business as usual. Regardless.
Oh, no. I'm actually saying that it will say business as usual. I'm almost thinking, I'm wondering if the hand was forced, because
of course, yeah. I mean, that's the problem with being that is. I remember, and I can't remember if it was Bradshaw or somebody else. I think it was Bradshaw, because he had this. It was
Victoria's favorite.
Yeah, I know, Victoria. I know he gets a bad rap. I've talked to John many times, and he gets a bad rap. I think people confuse the television character sometimes with the actual person because
ding ding ding.
Adam dropping names. I'm just saying.
I had the same.
Done.
The dude fucking yelled at me over a satellite on MSNBC when Eddie Guerrero died, and I thought he was a fucking asshole. And he later apologized and kind of explained it to me, so I changed my mind about John a little bit. But he has a massive background in stocks, and I remember he found out that they were going to take it public, and I guess he waltzed into Vince's office. Everyone's heard that story of when you go to TV tapings, Vince has a little quarantine area of the arena where it's his office, and he claims it's an open door policy, and you still can kind of. I don't know if that was the case up to this day, but
no.
He said he barged in and he goes, "What are you doing? Like, why would you do this? Like, why would you take this company public? Do you realize the risks involved with this?" And I guess the conversation they had was high risk, high reward with Vince, and he wasn't totally off. But now, kind of what Mike was saying, now when you do get in this position, you do have these major sponsors, the board has to make a decision. And it's very, very clear that they made a decision this week and said, I think it's time we move on from Vince McMahon, which is absolutely crazy to say, but that's the situation we're in right now. And I think that people have to respect that decision. And I think kind of what Victoria was saying, I don't think it's over. I think more information is going to come out, and I think we're going to find out more stuff. And I think there's going to be, I think from Victoria's perspective, it's going to be hard for her to listen to people vilify Vince and put him up on a pedestal when you then read some of this stuff. And that's kind of why I made the example about Benoit and Jimmy Snuka and some of these guys where it's like, you want to focus on the stuff that you remember. And Vince was obviously on a much higher level than some of the people that I listed as examples, but he's going to be synonymous with this now. I mean, this literally ended his 40-year career. And it what a time for that to happen with how hugely influential social media is right now, regardless of how people feel about, cancel culture and things like that, coming to fruition. We literally watched in the last 6-7 hours, how that plays out. And it hit him hard. And I don't know if he was mentally prepared for it. I'm sure when the initial first story came out, he probably knew the writing was on the wall, which prompted the strange television appearances and walking out and smiling. And, some people were enjoying that, but, I often, it's, Mike probably knows what I'm going to say. It's like, we don't really put ourselves in different perspectives very often. Like when I'm listening to Victoria react to the story, it even kind of made me pause and go, oh shit. If I was in her shoes watching someone walk out in a suit and go, hey, everybody, you'd be like, well, what the fuck? Like that's not fair. Like why does he get to do that? And it's messed up. And I know it sounds like white knighting, and I know people that are super conservative are going to listen to this and fucking, get pissed off, but it's true. And that's the reality. And that's kind of the new world we live in. Unfortunately, we live in a world now where adults have to take responsibilities for their actions, and they didn't have to for a long, long time. And that's the world we live in now.
Yeah. And it seems like a lot of the people that are defending him are the ones that, just accept that like, oh, well, wrestling's different. That's just wrestling. That's the boys being the boys. And like a lot of the stuff is, like in music, for example, if you really did a hard look at music, I remember Bill Maher saying this, when Me Too started happening in 2017. He goes, if you really, if you want to, do this and look into this and start canceling everybody, the only thing that'll be playing on the radio stations is polka. Like there's a lot of skeletons and a lot of closets, and wrestling for whatever reason is just like its own thing. I always said that it's like the redheaded stepchild of entertainment, where it's just like, oh, okay, yeah, they're doing their thing, but they are big. They're still number one. Like if you want to put stock into ratings, they're consistently in the top 10 every time they're on television. Victoria, what your thoughts?
Well, in regards to creative and what everybody was saying about stocks and everything, I just think that there was a time not long ago where it was like, you want Vince McMahon? No, like if Vince McMahon's not part of it, if Vince McMahon's not in control, then we don't want any part of it at all. We don't want anything to do with it. Now, obviously, it's a huge shift where they've had to sit and assess and say, this is only getting worse. The more that's coming out, the more that in the environment that we are in a cancel culture. We are in the Me Too movement. You can't play around with this stuff. But what's unique about this situation, and kind of going back to what I was saying before, a lot of the allegations and a lot of what's going on, there's multiple layers. You have power dynamic, you have rape, you have sexual assault, you have sexual harassment. Like these hit almost every mark of what has come about.
Yes,
and prior to the Me Too movement that started heavily in 2017, like you said, a lot of these allegations and a lot of stuff that he was doing was well before this, well before people have been, having like leaving or coming forward or doing, not coming forward like fully, but publicly. But these things have been going on for a long time. Kind of like what Roy was saying before about how this isn't just like one isolated incident. We're not looking at like this most recent occurrence that happened. This has been going on for years. So that's what makes this so,
I would say for 40 of the 40 years.
Yeah. And this is what makes it so bad. Like this is what just makes it horrible to even think that this has been going on for so long, and that the amount of control that he has. And this is where I think, and this kind of can transition to a little bit about what happened with Brock Lesnar tonight and everything. But I hope, because more is going to come out. I have a feeling more is going to come out. This isn't over. But, okay, fine. Stephanie said what she said. She got her little cheers. She had to. It's her father. Fine. Okay. Fine. But put it to bed now. No more mentioning of Vince. No more of this like, oh, like, woe is me. Like, my father did this or whatever. I don't want to hear about it anymore. I don't want to hear about it on public television in regards to WWE. Put it to bed there. I'm very curious to see what other stuff is going on with this investigation.
I do have a feeling that like that probably might be one of the final times. I mean, I know a lot of people are like, oh, well, in 2 or 3 years when this dies down, Vince will be back. That very well might be. He might come back in like an elder statesman type role, maybe like a classy Freddie Blassie, toward the end of his career, where he just come out and, just do something, wave to the fans, maybe even do a Hall of Fame thing for him at some point, in the next couple of years. But in terms of him ever coming back and being a full-time television character or coming back in any of his roles, it's over. It's over. There's no way. And even if he wanted to in 2-3 years say, oh, well, the heat's kind of died down, Vince is going to be 80 in 3 years. There's no way he's coming back to do anything that he was doing.
Yeah.
He won't be in the shape, and not only that, I don't think it's going to die down in 2-3 years. I think it's going to progressively keep coming out.
Because on top of that WWE superstar story that I mentioned earlier, that Jerome and I talked about on a podcast a couple of weeks ago, there was also an allegation of a WWE contractor, not employed by the company, but somebody that they were, I guess, doing business with. Vince found her attractive and sent her unsolicited nude photos of himself.
Whoa.
And then there was another one who was a manager. I don't know if it was like a talent manager or a manager of some department. They didn't specify what it was, but they also had a sexual relationship. So there's 4 NDAs that we know of so far. You go back in time and look at 1986, in the Rita Chatterton thing, like that's early on in his career. And the 1990s were kind of a
free for all
for Vince, in terms of being investigated by the federal government up to the Attitude Era. There's even a great scene on Beyond the Mat, Vince backstage, joking about golden showers in 1998.
If you think about this man's career, yes, there's other stuff that he did, but if you think about this man's career, he actively had storylines where he got to hook up with hot women.
He booked a story. He wanted to book a storyline
to have an incestual relationship with, well, not incestual relationship, but impregnate his daughter with him, whatever. But it's like incest. But that's where again, that's where this man's mind goes to. So, are we entirely surprised that these things occurred in real life? Not
no,
really.
Should be.
No,
No,
we're not. Honestly, I was just. Sorry. Go ahead, Victoria.
No, Roy, go.
No, I was just gonna say I was just waiting for them to this was like a couple of days ago. I'm like, I wonder if they'll ever do like a deposition on Raw with Vince, where there's like a whole storyline. Because he was showing up on like Raw, like the word came out, and then he showed up on SmackDown, then he showed up on the Raw like 3-4 days after. I'm like, what are they gonna do a storyline out of this? It's only gonna get worse, and God help if the name ever comes out of who the former diva was. If that ever comes out, she's gonna get so much shit from so many idiots.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That's kind of what Vince does, though. Like, I remember when the Bob Costas thing happened, and he was like, it was really awkward, but he loved it. Like, he loves the confrontation and like the controversy surrounding it. And people go, "Did you see what Vince just said to Bob Costas? And did you see him get all like?" He really enjoyed that awkward interaction, angry, very. And I feel like when that story broke and he started showing up, because everyone kind of expected him to come out on television and say, "You know what, that's it," and then he just kind of trolled everybody, and then I remember when people reading like, "Man, I'd love to see Vince come out every week and tease like an announcement and just say something stupid and leave, and they can make a whole storyline out of this." And people were I was kind of surprised, like, okay, like. Because it was very similar to what Chris Jericho, his reaction is like, so what? It was a paralegal, so what? But now that all this information's coming out, he's going to probably have to retract that statement very, very much so. But I mean, I'm looking on Twitter right now, and there's still plenty of former talent that are like, like Ric Flair gave a very like nice, sentimental last statement about Vince, and it's like Mick
Foley.
Mick Foley said something. What did he say?
Yeah, I'll get it up.
He owes his life to him. His
I mean,
career.
that's the problem, is that so many guys owe the millions and millions of dollars and their success to him. But at the same time, it's like, fuck, like you can't pretend that those things didn't happen at the same time. Like you can't ignore them. And that's
let's
the hard part.
Let's just bring this up for a moment, because it was projected to be that Brock Lesnar wasn't supposed to be there tonight.
Yeah,
he had made that statement that I will not be there, and he did show up. But that does bring the question of now, like, Team Vince, Team not
loyalty.
Vince. Like, where do you and what's that going to cause backstage too? Because there's going to be there's definitely thoughts on. But whether they say it out loud and they're public about it, there's this divide now, and it's going to cause a lot of tension. And it's like, I said this before too, about a month ago when everything happened and John Cena came out, and then when Vince, and I was like, why is John Cena there? Like, why is he in the ring with this?
Well, that was the last time we saw Vince.
Yeah,
that was right before.
And I was like, wait a minute. And then before you know it, John Cena's not on SummerSlam. So it's like someone must have said something like, "Listen, you don't owe this guy anything." And it's like, yes, technically you do, but when all this stuff's going out, like, and again, that's just me personally.
No, I thought the exact same thing, Victoria. I was like, I honestly could not believe that John was willing to go back and associate himself with the company again, given where he's at professionally right now. And I was also I was like, oh, that's a bold move to be. That's what
we talked about on the post Raw show, because Vince is the one who introduced him. Now Vince was not in the ring when John got in there, so there was no photo op of them together. Yeah. But Vince is out there saying he's the greatest WWE superstar of all time, this and that, the whole thing, and then it introduces him. Look, if Vince was going to be around moving forward, they would have had him at least come out tonight and say goodbye.
What tension will
Stephanie did say? He wishes that he could come out and say goodbye.
What tension will this cause, though? Because think about it, his daughter's still in control.
Is she?
Right.
But what tension does that cause if, again, this whole Team Vince, Team not Vince among the superstars?
Actually, I read that the Backstage, a couple of reports came out, from the more reputable websites, that the morale backstage was actually quite upbeat and hopeful.
Was that a little dig at a certain website there, Mike Tedesco? I just wanted to,
not
By the way, said reporter got roasted by a very popular chain restaurant on Twitter just now. So if you want to take a gander at that one,
I'm going to take a look at it.
Wait, what happened?
Just a second, don't worry.
We'll talk about this off air.
Well, no, I mean it's on Twitter.
No, I'm
It's on
joking, I'm
Twitter.
joking.
It's on Twitter. If you want to, I mean, people know who we're talking about. We're talking about Brian Alvarez. So go to Brian Alvarez's Twitter page.
Oh, my favorite. My
no,
favorite
Very
person.
serious.
Yeah.
Look, I gotta say,
He was very wrong though tonight. Like
no,
I like Brian a lot. I think he's very good at what he does, but he was really wrong tonight. Like it was bad. It was pretty bad.
So, okay, let's talk about that real quick. The Brock Lesnar thing, because I actually don't think that Brian was wrong. I think because they leaked the rundown of SmackDown. Obviously, they did that for they're trying anything to divert attention from this and let's get people talking about something different. I think they did do a thing where it's like, let's work the boys,
That's very possible.
Let's have Brock walk out, get pissed, and this and that, and that will be the story rather than Vince.
So I will add this, Mike, and I'll shut the fuck up after this. But they did this with Brock a couple years ago, where they intentionally would have him do shit backstage, and they would see what would leak out to the internet, and then they would kind of be able to sniff out who the rats were a little bit. So you're not totally wrong with what you're saying.
Yes, and like even that thing, like that was after, I think it was WrestleMania 34, where he beat Roman Reigns and bloodied him up, and then he walks backstage and throws the titles at Vince and says, like, F you, old man, I'm done. And like he's like, hey, asshole, but then they wound up recording the whole entire exchange and putting it on WWE 24, or whatever it was. They do what I mean, for God's sake, they booked Brock Lesnar for a solid year to troll the internet, have him go to house shows and beat guys in 3 seconds and then leave. He doesn't want to even be there. It's like, yes. He flew, for 6 hours to get to Podunksville,
Hates you
Minnesota, to beat Kane in 5 seconds and leave with a big fat paycheck. It's like, yeah, okay, sure. Yeah. It's like they are pretty good at working. Or, the other thing that could have happened is, he walks out saying, if he goes, I go. That was the big thing that Brian said that Brock had stated, some derivative of if he goes, I go. And, the other option is that the old man calls him up and says, don't fall on your sword for me. We need you for SummerSlam. If you want to do me, if you want to honor me, get back there and just do the job. We need you,
Which is kind of what Brian reported. Here's my only issue with Brian and Dave is that they'll toss out some bait, and then everyone will bite on the bait, and then the bait won't actually turn out to be very much at the end of the day. But then they'll go, but they'll always try to correct themselves after the fact to try to kind of save face. So that's kind of why people are like,
especially
all right.
Brian.
Yeah, I know, especially Brian.
Sure,
I mean, I don't personally hate those guys. I don't think they're ill-intentioned, but they know what their audience is and they know what they're doing. They're very good at it.
I think Brian's a bad person.
If it was just Brian, though, but it was also, Sean
Brian's a bad person.
It was PW Insider.
They know their audience. I don't think it's so much that they're mean people. They know their audience. Like Mike, you saw their audience in Chicago with me. Like, it's very obvious how easy and how gullible that audience is. Like, I mean, so they know what they're doing. And I think that's why I never really got along with Brian, because I've kind of figured that out along the way. And I was like, oh, this is kind of gross. This is kind of weird. But it plays into because the thing is, though, they have a reach and they know people are going to read the stuff they're saying. Like Hunter was seeing, Hunter doesn't even follow Brian Alvarez on Twitter, and he said his tweets were showing up on his timeline because the Vince story was trending on Twitter. So naturally the algorithm goes, oh, you're interested in Vince. There happens to be this other tweet that's saying that Brock Lesnar's left the building and he's not in Boston anymore. But if you go to Brian's Twitter, he's kind of going like, well, I wasn't wrong because they got him to come back. But I know I didn't see it, but you guys were mentioning that like Corey Graves was roasting Twitter tonight when Brock showed up, and Brock did the cowboy hat salute, and yeah. So there you go.
It was fun.
Corey put up the tweet right after he said, but the internet said, like right after SmackDown off the air.
I know. Probably because they blame in some ways. They're going to put the blame squarely on, journalists and the internet, for what happened to Vince.
Exactly.
And I almost could see like, the pipelines kind of drying up, in terms of sources and things like that in the coming weeks as they, tighten down on all this stuff.
All you have to do is come to Wrestleview. That's all.
That's it.
That's all you got to do.
Jerome will be posting all the scoops.
Yeah.
You don't need Brian and Dave. You got us.
Yeah, hey Victoria, I saw Brian wrestle like, I don't know, 20 years ago when I lived in the Pacific Northwest.
Sorry.
I saw him at a little show in Tacoma at the Temple. He lost. I don't remember who he wrestled, but he lost. He wasn't that good.
Good.
I wasn't really that impressed.
There's a lot of
I have not been
pretentiousness in
impressed
that camp.
ever by Brian.
I remember meeting Brian at a Starcast in 2018. I had probably talked to him for about 20 minutes, half hour.
You traitor.
Yeah, Mike had a much different interaction with him than I did. I was walking to my hotel room and he saw me and he went, pfft. So that was fun.
No way.
Yeah, crazy.
And then the best part was Matthew from Botchamania saw it happen. And he goes, "What was that all about?" And I ended up talking to Matthew for like 20 minutes. So I had more fun talking to him than I did Brian Alvarez. So it was fine. Yeah, it was fun.
I talked to Dave Meltzer like 20 years ago when I was in college doing a paper. Adam might remember because I contacted Adam about the Chris Benoit stuff.
That's right.
And Dave was nice and cordial.
Dave's very nice. Dave's very nice.
He was very polite, and we talked for like 20 minutes. And
Dave is one of the best.
He came across arrogant, but he was very polite, and he answered all my questions.
Dave's on the spectrum for sure.
I had no issues with Dave personally. Yeah, I think he'd get a little carried away, if he didn't have Brian, he would go on a tangent. His podcast would be like hours and hours long.
Dave's the best historian for wrestling in the history of it. I mean, I would put like Dave. If I had to pick two people, it'd be Dave and Wade Keller. I'd put those two in a room, and Mike today. But Mike was in the business, so he would fit in that. You're right. He could fit in that too. But yeah, when Dave starts to give opinions about wrestling, that's when he loses me. But if I had to listen to someone like give a history lesson on a wrestler or a territory, I would 100% recommend Dave Meltzer. Absolutely.
Yeah.
On the spectrum, though, a little bit, as Mike said.
Yeah, he's definitely. My one interaction with Dave Meltzer at Starcast, I went up to him like, "Hey, Dave, I'm Mike," and he goes, "Are you the one who's taking me for food? I don't know where I'm supposed to be. Where am I going?"
What the fuck?
I go, "No, Dave." I said, I just wanted to introduce myself to you, and he goes, "Okay, nice to meet you. Do you know where I'm going for food?"
Yeah. I love that. Mike walked up. Dave Meltzer just asked if I was taking him for food. I was like, "What?"
You should have said yes.
I was so confused.
Yeah,
like,
he
what?
should, right?
I had already had a few drinks with Adam.
Yeah,
Doug,
Mike was very confident. Mike, Victoria, I have to tell you this. We were at the bar, and I was a couple drinks deep too. And Mike's like, "There's fucking Dave Meltzer. I'm gonna go say." I go, "Mike, don't do it." He's like, "No, I'm fucking." He was the confidence in Mike Tedesco. And the walk that he did, he was like, "I'm gonna go fucking say hello to this person."
He was studying stuff.
I was so entertained.
Man strut.
He did a little bit of a strut.
No.
He did a little bit of a strut.
Hold on, let him finish the story. I want to hear about me.
Wow.
He's like, keep talking about it.
Okay.
No, Mike was very, and it lasted like longer than I thought. I mean, the Dave Meltzer interaction was short, but he did talk to Brian Alvarez, and he was like, I think we're gonna hang out with Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez. I'm like, I don't think that's a good idea, because that I have remembered my interaction from Brian Alvarez, and then Mike's like, no, it's cool. I'm like, I don't think he wants to hang out with me, but if you want to hang out with him, that's cool. But probably not a good idea. But no, the confidence, the confidence in Mike. I loved it.
Selfie of me and Brian, and she's like, "Oh,
yeah."
I go, "You traitor! I'm home right now. This is who you're interacting with."
You traitor! You traitor!
And Goosey was following me around with 9.5 toes, and then me
That's
and
right.
Mike hung out with effing David Arquette of all people. We did hang out with David Arquette.
For some reason, we didn't go to the show right away, and David Arquette was just wandering around the hotel, and we were like, "Holy shit, David Arquette's here!" And yeah, you guys had a little conversation. That was fun. That was a good time.
You always have that confidence. You're like, I'm just gonna go up to them, and I'm like, okay, go up to them.
I will tell you this, Victoria, and I think this is the utmost compliment that Mike probably will ever receive in his Wrestleview career. He had interviewed Jeff Jarrett, and he like ran and like kind of got in a situation, because Mike had much more confidence than me to just fucking interrupt somebody, and I was like, Mike, I'm like nervous if I'm like interrupt, and he's like, fuck it, I'm just gonna do it, and it was perfect because Mike got so many interviews for doing that, and I was so like proud. I was like, oh, Mike's just fucking killing it right now. I don't have to do shit. I can just have a beer.
Yeah.
This is great.
Mike's like in your face in like
I
the
loved
best
it.
way possible,
I loved
but like
it
in a good way. You
In
get
a very
what you
good way.
want.
and
What's
I
his
saw
compliment?
Jeff Jarrett, and he goes, hey, how come you didn't interview me? I'm like, my buddy Mike Tedesco had interviewed. He goes, I fucking love that interview. Who's that? What he goes, what's his name? Mike what? I go, Mike Tedesco. He goes, dude, he was the best interview I had all day. And I was like, thank you. I was like, yes, that was good. So you did good, Mike. You did very, very good. Very, very good.
It was good. It was
Too
good.
bad Brock Lesnar hates you.
I know. Brock hates me. Brock hates
That's all
me.
right.
But actually, my favorite interview of that day was Brutus Beefcake.
That
He was
was a good
talking
interview.
about how
That was
he used to guest star on television. He said something about a TV series. He goes, yeah, I did all those TV series. And I was like, oh my god, you're so stupid. I love
I
it.
know. I'm just glad you got him at a good moment, because I think at one point you were going to try to talk to Teddy Long, and he was so annoyed. He didn't know what Twitch was. They had who was the guy that was a teacher in real life that was a wrestler?
Striker.
Striker.
Yeah.
Striker was going
Striker.
around with a camera and another host, and they were just streaming live on Twitch and walking around that little bottom area where Mike was interviewing wrestlers. And they went up to Teddy Long to like, hey, let's just talk to Teddy Long. And he's like, hold on a second, play. I'm not being paid for this. No one told me about this. Nothing's been discussed. I was so happy because I remember you were thinking about talking to Teddy Long, and I was like, I'm so happy that you had better interactions with like Brutus the Barber Beefcake and Jarrett and your Don. Dude, I loved your Don West interview. That was my favorite one. Don West was the best. That was the best one, but that was a good time. I was happy
awesome.
we did that.
You got people while they were eating their lunch, like
Whatever.
Like
whatever.
that was Don was eating his lunch while I was talking to him. He was a great guy. What a great guy.
Super
I tried
nice
to
guy.
get Jerry Lawler, but because of his Legends contract, they literally can't do any interviews.
They can't. Yeah.
Yeah, Don's a gem. I met him at a TNA house show in Kent when I lived in the Pacific Northwest, and I remember I was talking with him, and he was like asking me, "Do you know where Wenatchee is?" I like Wenatchee, and I was like, "Well, yeah, that's Central Washington, and I've never been there, but I can tell you about it." And he's like, "I'm thinking about moving there," and it's like, "Okay."
He's friendly. He's a friendly guy. He's a very friendly
he's
guy.
super sweet. I mean, he's just like you remember him from the Home Shopping Network. You know,
Yeah.
Jim Minton, Mark McGuire, rookie card.
Yeah. That's how we got that. He got that job in TNA because the wrestlers would be up till 1, 2, 3 in the morning drinking beer, watching Don West on TV. And they're like, "We got to get this guy in TNA. This is gonna be great."
Yeah.
And
I know.
got the gig.
It was incredible. But you know, like I look back at that time and I'm like, man, you know, it wrestling felt really exciting then, and it really did up until the pandemic. You know, the pandemic really hurt a lot of things. And that kind of excitement about wrestling, you know, the potential of like what, you know, this next wrestling boom period is almost like, you know, we're still playing catch up, you know, as we come out of COVID-19, you know, and trying to get that feeling back. You know, it's almost like did we miss it? Did we miss that little bit of a raising? You know, because everybody says, you know, wrestling's cyclical and this and that. It has peaks and valleys. It felt like we're in a long valley, but 2018, felt like it was coming back.
Well, you guys kind of, do you feel that when you go to like Elton John and you're around big audiences and stuff? Because like he's getting like 20,000, 30,000 people. Like, do you feel it now that you're
like you had 50?
Okay, so do you feel like because you know, with COVID's, I know I can tell you like 20 different people that just got COVID in the last like 3 weeks. So we're not really through it. Like it feels like we are, but we're not.
No, yeah, I know.
But does it feel like when you guys go to those shows and you're around that many people, like does it feel like the way it did pre-COVID, or does it still kind of still cautiousness?
Okay, so Victoria, she'll go to a show and she still wears the mask.
Yeah,
and
which is fair.
That's okay. There's reasons why, you know, that she'll wear a mask.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. I just choose not to. I'm vaxxed, double vaxxed, boosted, the whole thing, you know, like, and it's like, you know, I've put so many chemicals in my body to, you know, to just go back to living a normal life, that if I put the mask on, it's almost like, what was the purpose of even doing all that in the first place? I'm just ready to get back to living normal life. For the most part, you go to these places, Victoria is very much in the minority wearing the mask. It just
Yeah.
seems like business as usual. When we were in Philadelphia, it felt everybody was on top of each other. It
I
felt
think
like
for people like me,
regular.
It's very much like still very scary,
If you have anxiety, it's alive and well.
Yeah, because there are people like me who do still wear the mask and stuff. And I don't know, for me personally, when I will ever feel like I can't wear one in a live event. Because Adam, you spoke about this like a long time ago. After that trip to Chicago, the germs, like after like
I told Mike I got sick for
sick.
I got sick for 2 weeks, and that was because we were meeting so many. I remember telling this to either Mike or Doug. I think it was the second day. I go, I've probably shaken about 50 different hands, and I don't remember washing my hands almost within an hour of doing that. And just kind of, so I'm sure I touched my face. I'm sure we went to the bar and we were touching, like having a drink. We didn't order food, but I was like, there's a very good reason why I got so like violently. It was a powerful cold, and it wasn't just like the sniffles. Like I had like body aches. I had like it was. So then I think about like, imagine being in the position of like a talent when you're doing like meet and greets and you're shaking. I was listening to Joe Rogan and Tom Segura talk about how they used to do meet and greets after their comedy shows, and this was before they were doing like arenas. And he's like, we were shaking like 5,000 people's hands. And just thinking nothing of it. And now that we're post-COVID, everyone's, more mindful of that. But I'm about to go to like this big concert at the US Bank Stadium in Minneapolis. And there's going to be like 90,000 people there. And I'm like, oh shit. And I'm going to go see Rammstein. Because they didn't tour the United States for like 15 years or something. And they've postponed this show 3 different times because of COVID. And they finally decided to push forward with it. And then I saw that you and Victoria, Mike, were going to Elton John shows, and I'm like, that's got to be so many because it's Elton John. So I'm like, okay, minimum 30,000 people. So that I was like really curious. I'm like, oh boy, like should I be wearing an N95 when I go see Rammstein? Should I be
like my rationale also? I mean, like we saw him twice. We saw him twice before already at Newark and Hershey as well. And then we just saw him in Philadelphia. We're going to see 2 this weekend as well. Like I didn't wear it in the arena, but when I went in February, I went with the express intent of wearing it. But then by the end of Benny and the Jets, which is the first song of the set, it was already off, and I was not putting it back on.
Yeah.
I wasn't able to breathe anymore.
The show that you did wear that wrestling show we went to, you wore it the whole time.
I did wear the mask at Madison Square Garden the entire time.
Yeah,
okay.
You did.
I did.
And I think, like I said,
because I honest to God, the reason why I wore the mask the entire time there rather than at Elton John was at the Elton John concerts, there's a lot of older people there. And I'm figuring, look, these mom and dads in their 40s and 50s, they're probably all vaxxed. Not that I'm like any younger than them, I'm 35 already, for Christ's sake.
I was like, Mikey, come on, man.
I know. I got to get with the program here. But, I'm thinking like, that's a low risk situation. But at a wrestling show where you can like if someone's wearing shorts, you can smell their unwashed nuts.
Yep. We smelled that in Miami quite a bit, didn't we?
Yes, we did. Yeah, we did. Like I feel like if I was going to go to some event and get COVID, it would probably be a wrestling event. So I wore the mask.
Yeah.
That's probably where it was invented. Fuck.
And then the rest,
for sure.
I think it probably came from there. Yeah, probably at some New Japan program.
Wrestling events are definitely the start of COVID.
Disgusting.
I love how casually Roy said that probably was fucking invented at a wrestling show.
And it could not be more true.
He's not wrong. It's disgusting.
I went to an indie show here like maybe a month ago. Not too many people, like maybe 200, 300 people.
I saw your pictures, yeah.
Yeah, it was fun. It was an indie show. I was with some friends, but Jesus Christ, I was keeping my distance. No one was wearing a mask, and I wasn't wearing a mask either, and I didn't go there with the intention of wearing one. But when you see some of the fans there, or some of the people, and I use the word people very loosely, you're just thinking to yourself, "Holy shit!" Like, I enjoy the same kind of activity or entertainment as these people. It's scary.
Well, Andrew in the chat just said he's going to SummerSlam it's going to be 30. Where is it at? It's in Nashville.
Nashville
Nissan
at the
Stadium,
stadium.
He said 36,000 people. Like,
Yeah, Nissan. That's the Nissan Stadium.
oh my God, and I know like WrestleMania was normal, but in April there wasn't too much of a spike, and now in the last, I know there's we don't have to get into the political aspect of it, but it's definitely ramping up again. Like regardless whether you like it or not, it's definitely ramping up again. So imagine going to Nashville next weekend knowing that could be a possibility. And
there are other places, other like venues and arenas that I saw recently when we were looking at tickets and stuff, just in general.
We're going to see Billy Joel on Wednesday, and we're going to have to bring.
But basically, you have to bring your vaccination card.
Bring your vaccination.
So they don't let you into the venue unless you show your okay.
Well, that just started in New York again. And they're I think they're kicking around bringing back masks in public indoor spaces again.
Government buildings is starting to ramp up again.
Yeah. I mean, look, we're, like you said, we're not out of it. It's certainly not a complete death sentence if you get it anymore. And not that it ever truly was. I always thought that was kind of blown up a little bit, and that's not like, crazy right-winger thing anyway. I voted, for who I voted for in 2020. I don't prescribe to like, oh, it's all fake. No. People were dying from it, and if you have like health conditions and predisposed to things, like I would be terrified, like really. And even now I'd still be afraid.
I'm still terrified.
But I'm ready. Like for me, I'm just ready to, even though it's going to spike again, it's going to spike like anything else, but this one's pretty damn contagious. This variant that's going around. I've never been around this many people that have told me, oh, by the way, I can't be around you because I have COVID. And that was during 2020, 2021. I was like, whoa, it's definitely popping back up again. So
it was just like Christmas
for us, for me and Victoria, like, and for what I do, like all of my jobs that I do are, except for sitting in my living room writing a recap, are high impact. Like, I'm around a lot of people, at church and at school. I've been exposed to so many people that had it and I didn't know. I've gotten notifications on my phone that I was a close contact at one point. I've never had it, thank God. And then I think part of it is, I'm vaxxed and boosted and all that stuff, but also I just found out my blood type is like this B positive, where it's low. People with B positive don't generally get COVID. So I'm hoping that, like, I can take the chance.
It's weird. I sound whatever, but this is right now what I had was allergies that turned into a sinus infection. Yep. So, but when I first got like a little bit of whatever, I'm like, oh, I got it, Mike. It's me. It's happening now.
Yep.
And
around absolutely nobody.
But and that's the thing. It's like, but it's still like a worrisome thing to me. Like, to me, like I like I said, it's gonna take me a very long time to be able to go to like any event and where I'm like, oh, I'm not gonna wear a mask.
Yeah.
Well, also, I've been practicing social distancing before it was cool. So
I've been masking. I've been masking before the pandemic. You laughed at me.
Yes, I remember. Well, you were pregnant when you masked that one.
Yeah,
time.
no, that's
but
smart.
You were laughing at me. I was masking at church and whatever.
It's totally smart.
I was like, you look like you're in China. Like, what are you doing?
It's actually really my uncle flew for Delta for like 25 years, and he used to mask up because he said he would constantly get sick from passengers just walking by or coughing or sneezing, and he had been doing that well before the pandemic, and he had the option to continue to fly during COVID and just took an early retirement. But he's like, I want nothing to fucking do with COVID. He goes, I was getting sick before COVID was a thing. And he goes, I can't even imagine how sick people are getting on those flights and stuff. So he found out I was going to Colorado this fall, and he's like, dude, I know you're going to get mad at me, but just wear an N95 when you're in the plane. He goes, you can take it off when you get in the airport. Just please promise me you'll wear it in the plane. I'm like, okay, that's easy to do. It's a short flight, whatever. But now I'm starting to think of like, okay, I'm going to be in this big NFL arena, and I'm like, should I be popping a mask on. Because I'm not going to be able to enjoy the show. It's going to be because that's my thought of like listening to you say, oh, I didn't wear a mask, and then Victoria's wearing. Like, Victoria, was it hard for you to enjoy a live event with a mask on your face? Like, I'm sure it was.
To an extent, yeah.
Yeah,
it was, especially, believe it, not so much like at an indoor event, believe it or not, wasn't as bad. And we were in a little bit of like a colder time, but it was a little bit harder this past weekend at Philly Stadium when we were outside because it got hot, and I found myself being like, okay.
Yep.
I mean, you work through it. But I have to, like, I physically have to wear one, not even just for anxiety, but for other things that are going on. And I've been sick like all month with other things. So, but you do adjust. And I was wearing a mask the whole day at school. Like, I kind of trained my body from like 8:30 in the morning till 3:30. That mask was on. Only time it was off was when I was eating lunch for 15 minutes. So
it's rough.
But it is hard. It is hard. And it's
hard.
like,
you gotta wonder sometimes how the wrestlers do it.
Yeah.
Like they'll post pictures. I follow like Shelton Benjamin and MVP and stuff like that on Instagram.
Oof. Yeah.
And they constantly post pictures on the plane and they're just masked. I'm like, fuck,
they're putting themselves in the line of fire. It's kind of people don't think about that. They're thinking about just themselves attending their event. But you're right, Roy. They're going across the country and putting themselves.
Madison Square Garden in March. By no means are we truly, we're just starting to get ready to emerge from everything, and mask mandates are coming down. Madison Square Garden, New York City, there's not a lot of room to move there. And Charlotte Flair, I remember her leaving Madison Square Garden, and we saw just a group of people just like waiting at this entrance. I was like, there's no way that anybody's going to come out that way. And lo and behold, they're like, oh, Charlotte Flair. And so we're just kind of watching from afar, and I see her emerge from like this very tight row of people like this, masked up completely, just basically trying to run away from all these people that were unmasked, trying to get a piece of her. They put themselves in the line of fire quite a bit. And then you have to think about all the people that come up to them in the airports and, like Seth Rollins just earlier this week apologized.
Just an hour away from me.
Right at his place in is it in Davenport? I think
it's in Davenport, Iowa, so it's kind of right on the Mississippi. And I remember I was in Davenport a couple months ago, just going there with some buddies to drink and relax, and we walked by his school, and he was in the ring just working out. And I was like, that's so fucking weird that you could just walk right in, but he was doing some kind of a workout, and a bunch of fans approached. Yeah.
And he flipped out. But I mean, like that, their lives constantly, like no matter where they go, they're getting accosted for some
and they're parents now, so they have to worry about passing that on to their child too. Like it's different. It's very different when you're a parent too, because you have to. I know people that aren't parents are going to be like, oh, whatever, but it's like you have to think about. I know Roy's like, whatever.
Poor Roy.
I'm not saying whatever. I'm just saying I'm not a parent yet. That's all.
No, I know you're saying. Like, it's something I've said to other people that don't have kids, and they're like, oh, okay, and I'm like, no, like I'm serious. Like I have to be kind of mindful of the fact that if I go somewhere and then I come home and I give my daughter a hug or a kiss or something, I could be giving her something, and I don't know how she's going to react to it. I've never had COVID. I'm actually part of a study right now where I'm donating my blood because I've never had it, and they're absolutely fascinated with the fact that I actually had it in my respiratory system 2 different times. I took an antigen test. It was in my respiratory system, and my entire body rejected it twice, and I have no idea why. It's completely bizarre. And I know I was around. This test is so accurate that it could literally tell you to the month when you had it in your system. And I had it twice and didn't get it. So that's the strange thing about this virus, is that you could have been kind of like what Mike was talking about, how you could have been exposed to someone that had it, but maybe it doesn't affect you the way it affects somebody else. But I've always thought about that with wrestling. It's like, I haven't attended anything live for many, many years, but I'm fascinated with people that have decided to, because like I've been going to like concerts and stuff, but I haven't been doing like wrestling stuff. But it's it's the same thing. It's the same exact thing, like going to a comedy show, or because I've been going to comedy shows and I just haven't been going to wrestling shows, but it's the same thing. You're still putting yourself, you know, especially these bigger shows, like when Andrew was talking about being around 36,000 people, like, whew, like sometimes you have to kind of give it some thought. And the vaccine card things, I guess, by state, and maybe they're not doing that in Tennessee.
It is by state, yeah.
Okay. So it's something to think about. It has, going back to what Mike was saying, it's kind of altered how entertainment has been absorbed, and it's really affected wrestling. Like I'll be honest, I watched clips, but I didn't watch like full episodes when they were in, you know, the
Underdome.
I didn't watch any of that stuff, and I would see clips and I was like, oh, that looks terrible. That looks so bad. But I didn't, the fake, you know, the fake crowd noise they'd pump in and shit, and I know they do that still even with the crowds there, but I didn't get to experience any of that. So you guys are like, it's fascinating to listen to you guys talk about like watching those shows and taking it in, and then kind of going back to trying to be normal, but
real life.
That's one of the things. SmackDown's actually coming here on August 16 or 19 or something like that, and I'm sort of hesitant. I'm like, do I go? Do I not go? Is it worth it? Is it not worth it? I got COVID. I know I got it at least once. I think I got it twice in like the span of a month, late December, right after Christmas.
Yeah.
And I had it. It was literally like a minor. Well, for me, anyways, I was lucky. It was just like a minor cold. I had a headache for 2 hours. I had a headache for 2 hours. Went to bed. Woke up. Headache was gone. Had a stuffy nose for 2 days, and that was it. It was nothing. But now I'm like, it's spiking up again, and the weather's not that warm here. Like sometimes it's deathly cold, sometimes it's deathly hot, and it's wrestling fans in an arena.
Yeah,
I love that Roy's been putting wrestling fans under the bus the whole show.
I'm not.
By the way,
I'm this close to going on a freaking rant.
No, Roy is 100% right, because I will tell you this: the show that we went to a few years ago, there's been. You'll know when I say the story. It will come to you, because I'm blanking right now.
Elimination.
There's a few times when we've been to shows, and I've been to concerts, I've been to whatever, and I'm sitting there, and like we've had to move like twice going to a wrestling show
because of the smells.
I was
I know exactly what you're talking about. Was that one in Philadelphia, WWE Battleground, which was like one of the worst. It was the Punjabi prison where Kali came back.
My God.
It smelled like somebody went to a gas station and said, "Give me your best perfume," and dumped it on their head. It was horrible.
But then the BO and and then like kids are coughing on you. I'm like, can you not?
And then of course the one lone fart.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, the one that wafts through and you kind of get it, and it goes away. Yeah,
I wouldn't trust Liliana at a show.
Well, I'll tell you this,
because she coughs on if she's not like, if she's sick, she coughs on people.
But
that's how. But like people bring their kids and they're like, and I'm like, okay, could you go away?
Our daughter's a weirdo. Yeah, she has no social cues. No, she's just inappropriate in public. No, but they're going to be at Madison Square Garden this Monday, and even with the Vince thing, I was thinking,
Friday too.
Like, God, I gotta go.
Oh, are they doing a TV taping at MSG?
They're doing Raw.
Okay,
they're doing Raw.
I think it's just Raw. They're not going to be there.
I think you're right. I think you're right.
It's just Raw.
It's just Raw, and with the Vince thing, I have kind of thought like, I would like to, go to the first Monday Night Raw in the post-Vince era, especially in the first Madison Square Garden show in the post-Vince era. But, after 2 days of going, we'll be 2 days, in a row going to Elton John at an outdoor arena, which that makes me feel a lot more comfortable as well.
Yeah.
And then going to New York City where it's spiking and being indoors, like I'm opting out. I never miss shows when they're in the area. This one we're not going to go to Madison Square Garden to watch Monday Night Raw.
No, I don't blame you. I wouldn't right now. It's probably a better idea. Just chill.
That's right. Andrew Elder SmackDown is in Atlanta,
Georgia. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Interesting note on Madison Square Garden. So that's a 20,000 seat venue, right?
Yeah.
So Raw's only set up for 9,600, and they've only sold 7,000 tickets.
What? Well, I guess they have to cut off a lot of the because It's interesting because when they would do pay-per-views at MSG, they would just use the small little entrance area.
Ramp, yep.
But then when they do TV tapings, they yeah, you're right, they block because like I mean WrestleMania 20 had the stage, but it was still lower, like a lower stage. So they could still have seating above. But yeah, that's
it
well,
wasn't
the Madison Square Garden show that we went to in March. You know, they threw everything and anything and everything at that show. They had Ronda, had Ronda there. They had Brock there. Roman Reigns came out for it. You know, there was a lot going on in that show. It was not completely full. You know, like the upper decks were hard. Yeah. They're hard to fill, and I think, you know, part of it is the big stage for Raw. That'll cut off about a quarter of the seats in the arena, right there, and you know, most of those upper decks on the hard camera side are always tarped off. You know, it's not what it used to be. You know, like in terms of that, but I think we might see a lot of tickets being sold in the wake of this news. You know, the one thing that the Vince thing will probably do for the next couple shows, which is advantageous for them, is when the first Vince story came out that said that he was going to be, you know, temporarily stepping aside from his duties and naming an interim co-chair, you know, chairwoman in Stephanie McMahon. When he did that, SmackDown and Raw both boosted up big time, especially after they announced that Vince would be on that show. That was worth about an extra 400,000 to 500,000 viewers. You know, if SmackDown, that would probably be one of the highest rated SmackDowns of the year, I would say. And then the Raw that followed, where Vince also showed up, and I think that's the one where he jumped off the stairs and created a flurry of memes that'll live on in infamy, including that. There was an amazing one of him jumping off the Hell in a Cell, which was just so amazing. It's like, he's not going to do it. There we go. And it was incredible. That one also, that was one of the very few, very rare 2 million view Raws. You know,
that's so weird that you have to say the word 2 million being rare.
You know. When I took over, you know, in 2019, like I thought it was like, oh my god, like
it was was it 3.5, roughly 3.5?
It was 3 million. So that it started off at 3 million because I started, you know, Raw after WrestleMania.
Yeah.
And then by the end of the year, it was like it actually for the first time ever it dipped below 2 million, and that was before the pandemic. And then the pandemic dragged it down to about 1.4 at one point.
It got to 1.4.
It was bad. Yeah, it was bad.
When it got to 1.4, that's when they got out of the performance center. They were like, we got to do something here, because it was getting pretty brutal, and they had to change up the way they were doing things.
They were they got the short end of the stick. I mean, sports kind of was part of the course. Like, it was weird to watch NFL with no crowd, but wrestling needed that interaction. So I can't even imagine how much that sucked.
I think at one point, Mike, it hit 1.2. I think it was like a 1.2, 1.3 at one point.
That's crazy.
One of the hours did. One of the hours. But average view for all three, I think the lowest they got to, and I think I remember the main event. It was like Drew McIntyre versus Big Show or something like that.
Yeah.
It was Randy Orton versus Big Show. Randy. Right. It was. I'll never forget, because it was like, oh, Randy versus Big Show. You got to tune in. And I was like, oh my god, like they think this is gonna work.
Jesus.
That one did like 1.239 or something like that, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, and then you got Dynamite hitting 918,000 and 860,000, and Rampage is at like 450,000. I don't even know why that show's even still on the air.
Well, yeah, I was intrigued by the Friday night choice. Like, I know that they thought because SmackDown was getting it, but I was like, oof, all right, good luck.
Well, 10 p.m. Eastern on a Friday night. I just don't see that.
I mean, honestly, outside of that Punk show, has that show had any buzz outside of that? I mean,
not really. No.
Okay.
I know.
That's solid. We would literally did that Punk thing around this time last year.
Yeah.
And that's sad that show has had almost no buzz since Punk showed up. Like,
no, I mean, Adam, it averages between 450 and 488,000 viewers, and there was one point where it hit 350,000.
You know, I will say this: when I occasionally will do I'll have the dad night off, and I'll go have some drinks with some friends. I'll be at a bar, and fucking Rampage is up on like 4 screens. But no one's paying attention because everyone's drinking and talking and stuff. But occasionally I have someone go, "Hey, is that the thing that you used to cover?" I was like, "Yeah, but not AEW." But they would. But what's weird though is they'll kind of be like, they'll glance up, like, is that Chris Jericho? And then they'll start talking about, oh, I remember but it's never like a situation where they're like, I want to watch this show every Friday. It's always like a nostalgia. It's always like, oh, I remember this guy. Like I literally was at a couple weeks ago, and I will say this, I have been watching the Christian Heel promos, and those have been very, very funny. But somebody I was with was like, is that fucking Christian? I was like, yeah, that's Chris, but now he's Christian Cage. And they were really fast. They're like, tell me about it. I'm like, well, he went to AEW, and I'm like, outside of that, I have no idea what's going on. But it's like pure nostalgia for people that used to watch wrestling. They'll recognize someone that's like on AEW, and then they just lose it. They're like, okay, so let's talk about something else. Like, it barely lasts for like 5 minutes. It's always fascinating to be involved in that conversation. It's so funny.
Yeah, I've had a couple of those interactions myself, and it's just like, you know, I especially love that question. Isn't that, you know, like almost like derogatory, or it's like,
I know, it's a little pit. It's like, is that the guy that used to be you? Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't have to complete your sentence. Yes.
Yeah, I know.
Yep.
Yeah, you're like, yeah, that's the guy.
Yeah, and now on Impact, you've got Tom Phillips and Aiden English doing play-by-play and color
I
commentary.
like Tom Phillips. I think Tom Phillips is great. I thought he got a pretty bum rap.
Well, he had quite the text message that went viral. So
that was my favorite. That was my favorite.
I can't take him seriously.
The giant selfie though. And I can't.
I will never forget reading. I'm like, I would never expect someone that looks the way Tom Phillips looks to say what he said via text. I was like, that just blew my mind. I was like, okay, all right, let's go with it.
Yeah.
But I know.
Well, especially now that, you know, the Vince thing has come down, I don't think. That
I know,
Tom
yeah,
will
it's
ever
very
be in
tame.
WWE.
Yeah, no, you're right. That's very
That
tame.
Consensual. He wasn't using company money to pay her off. That's for sure.
No, that's very true. That's very.
I think
true.
that was just
You're
a very awkward thing to say to somebody.
Yeah.
Well, the fact that he concealed the fact that he had a fiance.
You're
a bad boy, Tom. You were a very bad boy.
Oh, he was on an airplane too. I remember the I'm like,
Yeah, the
Me
airplane.
too. And like there was like somebody
no. Why does that like, it's so strange. Like he'd been a very consistent, like very vanilla color commentator guy, and then for some reason that one moment where he goes viral on Twitter, it's like that's the first thing I'm like, oh, that poor guy. He probably is like, I did all these good things. I was a good commentator, but everyone remembers me for. Yeah, I know. It's so bizarre.
God damn it!
It's so weird.
Well,
It's so weird.
You know, that's what Vince is probably gonna be sitting on his couch now.
Oh,
forever.
yeah.
They're gonna.
Yep. Absolutely.
These ungrateful bastards.
I know. He's gonna be the angry old man for the rest of his life now.
These unwashed heathens.
Yep.
Well, I don't know where the hell we went. How we all got up on this whole tangent.
This is a random podcast, but I had fun. It was good. I got a little tipsy, by the way. I apologize if I started to ramble, but this whiskey's so delicious, delicious.
It sounds like it's good. It sounds like it's good.
I know.
But I thank you all for being here with me tonight on this honestly an historic night in professional wrestling.
Yes.
The retirement of Vince McMahon from WWE. Many you could say forced retirement of WWE of Vince McMahon from the WWE. This was not made by his own volition. That's for sure.
No, not at all.
And there will be more to come, like Victoria has said, and Jerome and me and Roy and Victoria and even Adam will bring it back.
You said Victoria twice, by the way.
Did I say Victoria twice?
You did.
What was in this? I don't know what was going on here. Let's go. All right. I don't know what's going on anymore.
I don't either.
We'll be here to break it down for you. Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, by the way. I appreciate it. Thank you. This is a good time.
Blast. You know, spoiler, I think we might be seeing a little more of Adam, you know, especially as we move into SummerSlam weekend.
SummerSlam, Adam?
Was SummerSlam the last? Was that the Roy challenge when I did the WrestleMania show? Was it SummerSlam?
I think it was
Survivor Series.
Survivor Series.
Okay, so can we talk about what we've planned tentatively?
Yes.
Right now? Okay.
That's what I was trying to hint at.
Okay, so I reached out to Mike and I said, hey, I know Ric Flair is about to have his, I'm going to put last match, and it's probably going to be his last match, but
he has a pacemaker. He shouldn't even be having this match.
Did you see his promo on Twitter today, by the way? Did you happen to see that?
Not yet.
He's doing full squats and he stands up and he tells Jeff Jarrett to go fuck himself. It's so good.
Well, I
Please
saw
go
the
on.
angle where
Oh.
Jeff and Jay
Jay
Lethal
Lethal.
bloodied
Yeah,
him
yeah.
up pretty good. And
Uh-huh.
Karen Jarrett's wearing the white dress
It's-
and she's all covered in
It's
blood.
very
I'm not
evident to
watching.
me. There was a photo of him putting on boots, and his face was like red, like he was
Red.
having a stroke. And everyone's like, "This guy is gonna have his last match, and he can barely put his boots on." So he, on purposely, is doing this video where he's doing like full squats, and he's like 494, 495. He's fucking around, and then he looks at the camera and he's like, "Fuck you, Jeff Jarrett. If you think I'm old," I was like, "What is this? Fuck it." It's absolutely insane. But anyway. I reached out, I bomb texted Tom and Hunter, and I said, "Hey, would you guys like to drink alcohol and watch Ric Flair's last match?" And they were go, "Absolutely, we definitely want to do that." And I was like, "Okay, now I need to ask Mike's permission if it's okay for us to drink alcohol and watch Ric Flair's match and broadcast it live on YouTube." So we have planned to do this. When is the pay-per-view, Mike? Is it in?
That would be on Sunday. I think that's the 31st.
Okay, the 31st. So we've made plans to do this. So that's probably going to happen. So yeah, it'll be fun. It'll be a good time. Yeah, Victoria's
I'm gonna pop in there and say hello as well. I will be covering Ric Flair's last match. Rick retired like
10
2
times.
months before I started with Wrestleview.
Well, he retired at WrestleMania. What was the Orlando
24.
WrestleMania? 24. And then he had a match with
Hogan.
it Sting or Foley?
He had the match with Hogan on the Hulkamania tour, and then he went back
That's
to
right,
Impact,
that's right.
and
That's right.
That's where he was getting slammed in the thumbtacks, and it was just pathetic. It was just pitiful.
And I thought it was Mick Foley in TNA. I can't. Maybe I'm.
Yeah,
maybe I'm
he
wrong,
had stuff
but-
with Mick Foley and TNA
Okay.
for sure. Yeah,
But they're putting him in a tag match, so they're going to protect him. But
well,
yeah.
he got injured. Rick's injured.
I have to say this really quick. I thought Hunter would take the biggest shit all over this, and he is. Maybe he's fucking with me. I think he's fucking with me. He thinks this is going to be decent. He thinks this is going to be good. I was like, wait. I literally expected him to be like, this is going to be terrible. This is going to be a horrible match. He was like, I actually really want to watch this. I think this might be. I was like, okay, I guess we'll see how this plays out. I think it's going to be terrible, but I'm willing to watch the car crash. It's gonna be fun.
Like my thought is just, a man, who almost died a couple years ago, who has a pacemaker, wrestling a match, taking bumps where, like, what if the pacemaker just,
dude,
I don't know.
I was sitting on a beach.
can't chop him.
I was on, dude, for some strange reason, when I was with Wrestleview, I would take vacations and like the biggest news stories would just happen. I was cursed. And I was sitting on a beach in Key West, and I see the story that Ric Flair underwent surgery. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? I thought he was going to die. I was like, is he going to die while
Everybody
I'm on
did.
vacation? And the idea that he's going to be doing even minimal cardio at his age is astounding to me. So I'm willing, I'm gonna drop the money and watch it, but that's the tentative plan. Victoria's like, what are you guys doing? we're gonna watch an old man have a
I gotta
stroke
tell
live
you,
up here.
like the reason why I've been doing this for the last 15 years or something like that, recapping and just that's my wheelhouse. That's what I enjoy doing. I love recapping. I love doing these podcasts. But like,
I'd hope so.
oh, yeah, I better.
I would hope so.
I like getting paid too. But, there's also that. But like I get really excited like when I get to recap like a live match. I cannot tell you, like,
It's fun.
I don't know if you could, like, if you read my recap of Stone Cold's match against Kevin Owens, if you can feel the electricity coming through my fingertips.
Dude, your descriptions, I could tell you were amped for it. I could tell you were bricked up. It was fun. I enjoyed that.
If you read it, you could tell I was giving my all to make this the most perfect recap of all time. I get excited, and like
I love watching Victoria as you're giving this description. It's like the best. Like, it's like
okay,
this.
Okay. There's something really funny. I gotta share this story real quick.
Oh God.
So Victoria every now and then we'll do a TikTok or whatever, and it's like usually something cute or the baby or what. So I was like like feeling nostalgic and thinking about Liliana when she was really, really little and how sweet, and her learning how to walk and how we never thought she'd walk, and it's amazing. And then I see this thing of like she's walking, and I was like, oh, let me read the comments, see what people said about it. And there's like one of Adam, and it was incredible because I didn't even notice it. He goes, I love that Mike's in the background diligently recapping.
You were just
And it was
focused
me on the computer.
Like I should have been focused on the focal point of the video, but I was completely distracted by Mike, like just like, and I was
Because
like,
you know what he was doing.
Yeah,
you knew what he was doing. Another person would be like, "What's this guy doing in the back?" But you knew exactly what he was doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I lived that life for so long, where like Molly would walk in the room and she's like, "What the fuck are you? What are you watching?" And like that first year we lived together, and she watched me like she thought it was the strangest thing that she ever walked into. She's like, "Why would you?" Why would you watch this and then type on a keyboard? Why, like, and I had to literally explain to her, I'm like, no, like people don't always watch this and they would rather like it was just like a whole new world open for her. So when I saw Mike in the back, I was like, that was my life for so long. Yeah.
And it's what I've been doing for 15 years. When I came into Wrestleview, it was June 2008. And Rick had just retired, and he was even having matches on SmackDown. My final match on SmackDown ever, and I missed it, And we didn't even have a recapper for SmackDown for like a year, and that's why I volunteered for it. And I was like, man, I could have been recapping. And I was like, I'm not going to watch TNA to ever recap that. I've never watched. I'm proud to say, in my entire life, I've never watched a full TNA Impact show ever.
Wow.
I've caught bits and pieces. I've never sat down for 2 hours and watched one belt.
Good for you.
Start to finish. So I was for you. So I was like, wow, I guess I'm never gonna get to recap a Ric Flair match. I've gotten everybody.
Oh, you've never recapped a Flair match before?
This is my first one.
Okay. Now I get it. Now I get it. Okay.
I gotta tell you
to the description of the entrance.
Yeah, keep the bar low because he's how old is he? What 77?
73.
Okay, wow. I thought he was older than that. Okay, so
just
set the bar low. It's a tag match, so set the bar low.
No.
But
I'm just the fact that he's doing it. I'm just excited to just Ric Flair is alive and breathing as I'm recapping this match, and he's doing all this as I'm doing it. So I'm excited.
And they're doing this the same weekend as SummerSlam, right? Because it's in Nashville. Okay, yeah.
Yep.
Part of the Starcast. It's part of the Starcast 5, Adam.
Okay. Oh yeah.
It's smart. The way they did it was smart. And he's got his son-in-law Andrade going to be teaming with. Jay Lethal has been helping him train for the last couple months.
Dear Lord.
And Jeff Jarrett, I can't think of anybody better and safer to work with than Jeff Jarrett.
Can I tell you, before we close this podcast, Hunter Golden has occasionally from time to time quips that seep into my brain and don't go away. And he made a statement to me that has been in my brain now for almost a week. And he said, I have never known someone like Jeff Jarrett who has continued in his life to fail upwards. And I went, hold on a second. I had to pause and unpack that statement. And I went, wow, he's right. This individual has failed a lot, but continues. He is the VP of live events for the WWE now.
He was on SmackDown tonight.
And he's going to be refereeing a match at SummerSlam, and then he's going to be in part of Ric Flair. I mean, like the dude. So when Hunter said, "I've never known someone more that has failed upwards," I'm like, wow, that is the perfect way to describe Jeff Jarrett. I love Jeff Jarrett. I understand he has flaws. Been one of the nicest guys to me in the industry every time I've met him.
Yep.
But that is a wonderful statement to describe Jeff Jarrett because he's never been this. Yeah.
And a guy that for what he brings, he has made the absolute most of whatever it is that he has. Because I don't think that he's a great promoter. I don't think he's a great wrestler. But damn it, he has, like Hunter said, he has somehow managed to make a full, thriving, brilliant career out of it.
And just when you think he's like done, he just pops right back up. It's so amazing.
Like out of nowhere, Jeff Jarrett is an executive in WWE. Where did that happen?
I saw a lot of memes of the old Mortal Kombat game when you would advance, and they were showing Nick Khan and Jeff Jarrett just kind of like pop. I was like, he's kind of in the mix a little bit.
Finish him.
Yeah, he's kind of in the mix. So,
you can't finish Jeff.
Can't finish him.
You wanted to say something?
Finish him.
No.
Oh, okay.
I just wanted to state about the Mortal Kombat.
I love Victoria. No, I had nothing to say.
I thought she was gearing up for something. Because I'd hear about it after. Like, here, let me say
what? That is a lie through and through.
You son of a bitch.
Rick was on the Busted Open radio on Tuesday and said he has plantar fasciitis. So it'll be interesting to see.
Plantar fasciitis.
Yep,
Oh,
he revealed that on
fuck.
Busted Open Radio on Tuesday.
What's that?
I mean, there's a very good reason it's going to be a tag match. I mean that because I
Can't
remember
hit the ropes.
well that and I remember when he was working out in the ring with Jay Lethal and Charlotte Flair replied to the tweet. She goes, "Jesus Christ, Dad." I loved her response. She's like, "What are you doing? Why are you doing this?" But yeah, he's determined.
So he revealed that on Tuesday. So now I wonder if he'll be defeated.
He might be. I don't know, but
how much blood is there going to be?
A lot.
Well, you know
Oh,
it.
he'll
It's
bleed.
Flair. That's all
He'll
he does.
bleed.
There's gonna be
he'll
some
get-
bleeding.
Yeah,
He'll bleed.
fucking he'll lock up and all of a sudden just be like fucking busted out. Yeah, that's just
His
it's
hair,
Flair.
his hair will be red by the time that match is over. His hair's gonna
Oh
be
yeah,
red.
he'll blade. I mean,
But-
so
but
literally, so
that's-
it's funny. It's funny you mentioned that, Jerome. Tom wanted to place prop bets before the match happens, and so we were gonna run through a list of prop bets of what we think is gonna, just like predicting spots. So like the flare flop, the blading, the
It's not even gonna be a discreet blade either. It's just gonna be like
Low blow, chops.
low blow. Hunter does not think he will do the top rope. You know where every time he would go to the top rope,
Oh, the flip.
he,
The flip.
he does.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's pretty much convinced there's no fucking way Flair's doing that. But I
Now,
think he's gonna do it. I think
Here's
he's
a
gonna do
prop
it.
bet that I'll put down right now.
oh god.
I think that Flair. You remember how they would whip him to the corner and he'd roll up the corner, land on
Yep.
the apron. I think
Yep.
he will try it. I don't think he will succeed. but I think
Oh,
he
that's
will
gonna
try
be
it.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So if I guess that's the what you have to when you make the prop bet, you have to say, will he attempt the spot and will the spot be successful? That could be like a secondary prop bet. Okay, I like that. That's good, Mike. I like that. That's
Yes.
good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll make some prop
I
bets.
could see that happening.
So I can see a lot of fails happening in this.
Well,
Oh,
I'm
yeah, there's
excited.
gonna be a
I'm
lot.
excited. I know he said he's wrestling with a shirt on. He's not.
Really? He said he's gonna wrestle with a shirt on?
Yeah. He said
Okay.
I know I'm not in the greatest shape. Yeah.
Okay.
I almost imagine Ric Flair in like a black wife beater and shorts. Like
Which is funny because the last Nitro he wore a shirt because he was embarrassed with his physique. And
Yes.
when he wrestled
Yeah.
Sting. So
That's
and that was
right.
like 2001. So okay.
Yeah.
all right.
Aw, poor thing.
21 years ago.
Yeah, right.
Jesus. This
there's a lot of
this-
times where he had a shirt off in WWE where I'm like, bro.
Yep.
Put it on.
that just floored me, Roy. Just thinking 20. Oh my
21
god.
freaking years ago.
God damn. That
I
is-
still remember watching that Raw too.
Oh, I do
remember
too.
it. I
Yeah,
remember.
absolutely.
Think about who failed upwards. Jeff Jarrett was fired on air by Vince.
I remember that
He
too.
did.
For real. For
He
real.
Yep, he did. He
Yes.
sure did.
JARRETT is
Spelled.
GONE. Gone.
I love that. That was a good promo. And he loved it too. He went on Steve Austin's podcast like a couple weeks ago. He's like, I love that. That was great. He's like, do you realize that he went out of his way to cut a promo on me on national television? How was that a bad thing?
Right.
He's like, everyone tried to make it seem like it was a bad thing. He's like, are you kidding me? He dedicated TV time to me.
Third
like, yeah,
generation
that's true.
star. He gets it, you know?
Yeah, he gets it. Yeah, absolutely. It's gonna be fun.
I
I'm looking
remember
forward to it.
asking him in my interview. I said, you know, The Rock always gets this like thing, like, oh, he's the first third generation star. But I said, you actually are. He goes,
Yes.
yeah, well, Dwayne owes me a couple of royalties on that, man.
He's such a cardi. I love Jeff.
The
Such
best.
a cardi. He's
The
the best.
best.
Absolutely.
All right, everybody, let's get the heck out of here. We've been
All right.
chewing the fat for a while here, but we will be
I
back.
like that.
We will be back next week.
Wow.
Wow.
Victoria and I will cover the Raw leading into SummerSlam. We have to talk about that one because it's pretty big news now.
Oh, we are doing that? Okay.
Yes, we're doing it. If we're not going to Madison Garden, we're going to do the post-Raw
I love
show.
Victoria. Oh, we're doing this, Mike. Okay.
We decided that we're gonna do this.
I just decided right now.
Great.
See, because I wear the
We're
pants in the
doing
family.
Oh, yeah.
No, that I wear the pants in the family.
Okay.
I love it.
Anyway, and then we'll be back. SummerSlam, Ric Flair's last match, Raw after SummerSlam. A lot of stuff. Tune in, have some fun. Until then, I'm Mike. That's Roy, Adam, Jerome, Victoria. Good night, Wrestleview friends. Thanks for joining us.